What's up, friends? It's Eric coming at you from my kitchen in Indianapolis because this is the only place where the lighting works enough for me to be seen and also to bring light to all the different pimples and stuff on my face that I'm not going to look at anymore. Anyway, I figured that instead of typing out a lot of things and writing a bunch of different stuff that makes difficult to read and not always easy to understand, I would just make a video for you each week to kind of go over some concepts and ideas that we'll need you to kind of understand a little bit as we prepare for the nominating committee process that we're going to dive into in literally just like 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks from tomorrow, this starts. That is the first time I've uttered this out loud, and I am palpitating a little bit in my heart. I think that's a word. Either way, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. Anyway, so what we're going to go over this week is how the process works, the scoring system that we use to get there, and then the different things that we're evaluating these state officer candidates on, because we could have as many as 16 state officer candidates. That's a lot. If we have 16, that's going to be more than I've ever had as the coordinator, and this will be what, year 5 on this. So that's going to be a lot. How do we narrow that down from potentially 16, cut 9 or so people and narrow it down to 7? That is a task. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. We have a process that we go through that I'm sure you know of by now. Some of you are maybe more familiar with it than others. Some of you might be like, whoa, what does this look like? So basically we go through 5 interview rounds, and this starts on Wednesday afternoon. You'll arrive with me around 12:30 on Wednesday, and we'll start our orientation. We'll go over a lot of things that I'm going to go over now. We'll have some refreshers. We'll do some things to get to know each other and really dive into what the process looks like. And then we'll really kick into gear for preparing for our interview rounds on Wednesday. We'll have 2 interview rounds on Wednesday, and then we will have 3 interview rounds on Thursday that take us through pretty much the entire course of the day, and then we'll reconvene Thursday night to deliberate and pick the 7 state officers that we are going to select to represent New Jersey FFA for the next year. One thing you learned about me, we might as well tackle this now. I have an obsession with coffee, major obsession. And you will see me sipping it throughout this video, and you will also see me drinking it way more than I probably should be at convention. I know it's a health problem. I am aware I have an addiction. I am not in need of people to yell at me for drinking coffee, because it will happen. You will be concerned, but I promise I'll be fine. Just let me do me. It's cool. So don't judge. Don't judge a lot. Anyway, that's kind of cold. Ew. Anyway, I might have to pause to go warm that up. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Got my coffee. I'm back. Technology is a beautiful thing. I can just pause the recording in the middle and continue. So let's talk about how this looks. So Wednesday afternoon, we start with personal round 1. This is a round where all 6 of you interview 1 candidate at a time. And basically the purpose of it is just to get to know that state officer candidate. You're going to ask very surface level questions like, tell us about yourself. Maybe a little bit about what their background is, or some very getting to know you level questions that you would expect to be asked when you first walk into a job interview. One thing that we will ask during this round is we will go through all of their applications, and prior to convention, you will each pick out something from each candidate's application that you think is kind of interesting or that you might want to ask a question about. And we'll come together at convention and decide what it is that we want to ask each candidate that is tailored to them. So Hannah, you said in your application that you want to be a mortuary assistant when you graduate high school and college. Tell us a little bit more about that. It's a real thing. I'm not kidding. Story for another day. This round will basically allow you to just scratch the surface and begin to understand who they are as a person and give them that opportunity to make that first impression, because first impressions are really a big deal, right? And we give them 4 minutes to spend with the 6 of you to make that first impression that you will probably remember all the way through the duration of the process, and it might come back when we go to deliberate. So that's personal round 1. That's Wednesday afternoon. That's the very first round we do. We'll hop into that after Matt and Jamie have Wednesday afternoon career development events, and after we get done with those, we'll hop into personal round 1. We'll go to dinner, yay, and then we'll come back and we'll do the one-on-one round. This round is rapid fire. Basically, it is the 6 of you in a one-on-one conversation with each candidate, as many candidates as there are. So if there's 16 candidates, you're having 16 conversations. and you'll basically talk to them for 5 minutes based on competencies, which I'll talk to you a little bit about later. These are very structured questions, and you don't have to worry so much about developing them. Back in the day, we used to have to, during our orientation, we used to have to sit there and create questions that would cater to what we were trying to score, because we've got a rubric, right? And we have to figure out a question that answers or asks the question that allows the candidate to tell us whether or not they're proficient in that area so you can score them. That's loaded. So basically, we have a bank of questions that you ask now and you can pick from. So during this round, it's 5 minutes with each candidate. You'll have a chance to ask them 5 questions based on the competencies that you're assigned, and then you'll have 2 minutes to score. This round it allows you to learn a bit about their background a bit and learn about what they've done and kind of how they've gotten to where they are. There's some pieces of it that'll let you understand their character a little bit, but this round, to me, has always been very experiential based. It's very much behavioral interviewing, like tell me about a time when you XYZ, or share with me how you XYZ, or tell me XYZ. It's very much letting them tell you about themselves in terms of their experience and their abilities. When it comes to finding out their hearts and who they are as people and their true character, that comes a little bit later in the process. So that's the end of Wednesday. That's that first piece. Then we move into Thursday morning, and this begins with either the facilitation or stand and deliver round. As of the filming of this video, I didn't have all 6 submissions on the survey that I had asked for, which is totally fine. I can say that I did have a majority on the round that we're going to be doing. It will be the facilitation round. Don't share this. We're going to try something different this year, and we are going to share it with the state officer candidates in the welcome packet that they'll get in the mail. Just based on experience that I've had in the past, that's something we're going to try. But let's let that come from the state and Mrs. Noble and those proper channels instead of revealing that in a way, especially because if it gets out that a Nom Com member revealed it and it comes back to me, we're going to have a problem, because that already tells me we've got confidentiality issues. So that stays between us and this camera or computer, however you want to look at that. But we will be conducting the facilitation round. So that also means that we will not be conducting the stand, deliver, and advocacy round. Basically, in facilitation, candidates will have 20 minutes to prepare a portion of a workshop. They will be given different pieces of the workshop already. So they'll be given a point that they have to get across. They'll be given an activity so that they can apply it. They can help students apply it in their lives. What they will need to do is create some sort of activity or something that allows the students to understand what the point is. So if you've been in a workshop with a state officer before, right, you've probably gone through some sort of activity where you, let's take 360, for example. If you went to a 360 conference, there is an activity in a 360 conference where you rapidly exchange cards with each other. Like you have to just go up to 5 different people and exchange their card, and you don't really know why, right? And then at the end, you realize you have 5 different cards than you started with. And the point is that those cards represented characteristic traits. And you might have had cards that were good traits of people, that like an ace was kind or a 2 was giving. And now you have cards like a 7 is malicious, a 9 is greedy. And you realize that you were trading characteristics with people to give you to bring you to the point that all the interactions you have with each other can mold and change and make a difference in your personality. So that's an example of a supporting activity. It is an activity that candidates provide us so that we can kind of realize the point ourselves, because the point of facilitation is that students should realize the point through experiences, not through us lecturing. So that's what's the great thing about facilitation is we're going to be able to see their classroom management skills and their ability to help us understand content and understand the points that we're trying to get across. So they'll have to develop some sort of supporting activity that meets that point. This will be based off of a scenario that we will pick that day. Basically, you're voting on topics right now, and the top 3 topics will have a scenario created for them, and then I'll bring those to you at convention, and between the 6 of you, you'll decide which scenario you like most. And that is the scenario, and that is the workshop we will see as a committee. This round will then be 10 minutes in length, so they'll have 20 minutes to prepare and then 10 minutes to deliver to a group of live students. We'll have about 5 to 10 live students, participants of convention that are doing that aren't doing workshops, or they're not doing career development events. They've got some free time on Thursday morning, and they'll come to spend some time with us to serve as a real audience so that you can see them interact with students and see how they can manage a classroom. Because I will tell you firsthand, a candidate's conduct in this round has 100% made or broken them getting on the slate. We had a candidate one year who I watched interact with a student, and it was a pretty rough interaction, and I said to myself, that's going to come back later. And sure enough, it did, and sure enough, that person did not get elected. I'm not saying that that's why, but that was a contributing factor. You could see them in a real-life situation, in a real-life classroom management situation, which is something a state officer will enter quite often, and you were able to kind of evaluate how they handle those pressurey situations. This round will take a while. Right now it's slated for 7:30 to, I believe, around 10:30 on Thursday morning. This is very conducive to how many candidates we have. So if we have less candidates, it won't take so long. If we have more, it's going to take longer. It does get exhausting. So this is the type of round where you need to have a lot of high energy and have coffee, have a snack or two, something to keep your energy up, because this round exhausts me and all I do is sit in the back and watch. So I can't imagine what it's like on a committee. After facilitation, we go into what is called the round robin issues conversation. This round is a really good way to gauge a state officer candidate's knowledge of agriculture, education, and FFA. Basically, we will bring in 2 stakeholders based on the areas that you wish to see, which I don't have an actual solidified vote right now, and that is stuff you'll find out at convention. Based on the areas that you wish to see, I'll find 2 stakeholders in those areas, and they will come and join us, and then we'll split in half. Half of you will go with Hannah in another room and another stakeholder, and half of you will stay with me and the other stakeholder, and we will conduct interviews. So could be an agriculture stakeholder, and then the candidate would have to have a conversation about some agriculturally related area that they would be prompted with a scenario. The stakeholder would lead a conversation, and the key to this round is the word conversation. It's very much supposed to be a conversation-based round. It's not intended to be a question and answer. It's not intended to be a quiz. It's intended to be a conversation so that you can genuinely gauge not only how they can display their knowledge in these 3 areas, but also how well they can hold a conversation with a stakeholder, a real-life stakeholder that they will likely encounter. This round is also really good to see how they can represent agriculture, FFA, and education and as an advocate. Especially now more than ever, strong advocates are very important. Between the need for agricultural literacy, all the issues that we always see with education, and just keeping FFA relevant and making sure that the image that we portray is a strong representation of the FFA brand is very, very important. So this round really opens our eyes to how a candidate can serve as an advocate for us. And the cool thing about that is this round will really cater to some of you, and some of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, I want this to be over. And that is the point of this whole process. There are going to be some rounds that you really love, and there's going to be some rounds that you don't. And that's okay. I can already, just based on your responses to things, I can tell which of you are really going to thrive in this round because you really see the importance of advocacy, and you really value that side of a state officer. And I think then there's some of you that value the heart and connections and inspiration state officers can bring. Not that all of you don't feel that way, but I can already see the different sectors you'll fall into with this type of a round, which I love. I love a well-rounded committee. I love a committee that can cover all the bases, because if we have a committee that only cares about how much a state officer can inspire people but doesn't care at all if they can advocate, well, that's not good. And vice versa, right? So that's round robin. At this point, we've done 4 rounds, right? And we're probably getting a little bit tired. There's only one left, and it is what I've pinned is by far the most important round. And this is personal round 2. This will be, once again, all 6 of you with one candidate, and this time it will be 10 minutes. And this round, I give you the most freedom because this round every single year is what always seems to make or break the entire process. Like a candidate you can be on the fence about a candidate the whole time, and they can go in there and they can nail this round. They can show you that heart, how much they care about FFA members, how much they want to inspire and make a difference and advocate and really truly represent New Jersey FFA and national FFA, and blow you out of the water, and all of a sudden your mind is made up. Or you can be on the fence and they can go in there and you can see their true colors, and you can see that their character is just not where they want you to think it is. Because that's always a piece of this, right? Is that we've always got to be on the lookout for people that might be trying to show us who they think we want their character to be, when really what we're looking for is what their character really is. And this is the round that really allows that to come out. So this round, I give you a lot of freedom so that we can accomplish that, and that so you can create an environment where you can evaluate them to your best ability. You set up the room however you want. You set the lighting however you want. There are a couple questions that we have to ask to get scores, but then I really give you the freedom to ask whatever questions that you want to ask. And then we go from there. Basically, you have those last 10 minutes to find out anything you think you need to know. And then we wrap up with the last candidate and we set up for deliberation, and then we buckle down and spend Thursday night narrowing that pool of candidates down to 7 and then placing those 7 people into positions. And it's intense. It's crazy, and you think you're going to be tired, and you may be physically tired, but you're going to be so mentally on adrenaline and so energized by what we're doing that you're not going to notice. I promise. I can 1000% guarantee that you will never feel the exhaustion that you've inflicted on your body over the course of 2 days from what we are doing. So that's the process in a nutshell. Some pieces on the process and just some things to keep in mind throughout the entire thing is that consistency is the key to a successful process. There are past committee members that will tell you that if a committee member sneezed while they asked a question, I probably made them sneeze while they asked that question to every candidate. Because think about it. If you are thinking and a committee member asks a question that you can't totally hear because they sneezed through it, and you have to either ask for clarification or you can't think straight because you didn't hear the question correctly and it knocks you off your game, that may mess you up a little bit, right? And it's not fair that not everyone else had that kink against them. So consistency in the room, consistency in the way you ask questions, what you ask. Every candidate hears the same questions except for personal round 1, where we ask a tailored question to each candidate. But beyond that, every candidate gets the same questions. You can't ask specific questions to specific candidates. That's just not free game. And as I mentioned 100 times over, and you'll hear me mention 100 times more, is confidentiality. It'll benefit us more in the end if we just keep our mouth shut about everything we're doing in that room. It'll benefit us. It'll benefit them. The last thing we want to do is take away a moment for someone that could either change their life forever one way or another, and they deserve to find that out the right way, not all the wrong ways that can happen if we're not quiet. So that's the process. It's a beast, and I realize I've already talked for 18 minutes now, so that's a lot. We'll do this. That's a lot to digest. So we'll tackle scoring and how to score and some other tidbits about the process next week. For now, I'd like you to just digest this video a little bit and then email me if you have any questions, if you have any issues, if there's some things that you think back on and you're like, well, how would this work? Or, I've really been thinking about how we ask questions, or what questions do we ask, or where do the questions come from, or what rounds do we have questions provided for us, or what rounds do we ask questions? There's a lot of different things you could be spinning your mind about right now. And my goal is to answer all those questions so that you're 1000% as prepared and ready and fully equipped to be successful during this process when we get to convention, so that you're not worried about doing anything wrong, or that you don't feel educated enough to conduct this process when we get there. So until next time, until next week, hit me with emails, hit me with questions, hit me with text messages, whatever those things are called. Those things. Anything you need, any question, any issues, anything. I'm here. I'm totally accessible, and I'm here to make sure that everything you do during the week of convention is 1000% successful. So y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for getting those things done so quickly. I was very impressed at how fast the response rate was on things. I've never had a committee complete things that fast, so props. If you had a question that I felt was something I wanted to answer before we got to convention, I probably reached out to you to let you know. If you have any other burning questions, just let me know. Keep being awesome, and I can't wait to see you guys in just a few weeks. Later.